All right, everyone, the moment that you've all been waiting for. Well, not really at all, but we're going to talk about it. Metroid Prime 4. Could there be something in the works? Is Retro Studios, who follows me, by the way, on Twitter, are they hinting something that is going down with Metroid Prime? Maybe an announcement, maybe an E3 presentation, maybe something could be going down with this Twitter update. But before we get into anything, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you're someone new. Click that notification bell. We drop new videos and live streams pretty much daily on the channel. But let's go ahead and let's get down to business here because we have to talk about this. Because Metroid Prime 4, the game that was scrapped back in 2019, it's been 3 years plus since we last saw this game. And you know what? I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. I know a lot of you guys are worried because, well, people worry about all sorts of stuff. But I'm not worried because I know how game development can go. And I know that 3 years, well, that's a good amount of time. You're going to need more than that to build a quality game from scratch when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. We're not talking about a 1.5-year project or 2-year project. We're talking about big, huge, AAA end type of games. And the quality that you would expect from Samus returning to the Prime series. And it's been how many years now when it comes to the mainline Metroid games? 2007? That was the last time that we got a mainline Samus Metroid Prime game with Metroid Prime 3 Corruption on the Nintendo Wii. Metroid Prime Federation Force, yeah, not really on that. Obviously, Samus Returns, 2D going backwards. Samus with Metroid Dread, different style. Metroid Prime first-person action adventure game. Very high quality bar when it comes down to it. Multiple Game of the Year award-winning series with Metroid Prime. So, when you're making this new game, you're going to have to take some time. You're going to have to take some effort. You're going to have a lot of effort. You're going to have to get the right people in place. And that's exactly what Retro Studios is doing to build the quality game that we know it's going to be. But this tease, this artwork, what is this? Obviously, it's Samus. You guys are seeing it. You've been seeing it. It's Samus there. And then you have that dark blue slash black slash light blue theme. Now, if you remember the original Metroid Prime 4 teaser, of course, the dark blue type of theme with it, almost the corruption with Metroid Prime 3. So, I'm making some really reaching type of connections here, but it definitely seems like there might be a connection or something to do, of course, with the end of Metroid Prime 3 and Metroid Prime 3 in general. That game had a very unique spin on the Prime series. You had multiple planets, you had different allies that you worked with, but then eventually had to take down. You had all sorts of the corruption overflowing, the hyper meter in there. There was a number of innovative and new things to the Metroid Prime series gameplay and overall just flow that really just made me say, wow, Metroid Prime 3 is really, really, really good. I think that it doesn't get enough credit just because it didn't sell the best when it comes down to the main core Metroid Prime 1, Metroid Prime 2, and Metroid Prime 3. It kept on dipping in sales from original Prime to Prime 2 to Prime 3. But I think that with Prime 4, obviously Metroid Dread showed that the Switch is a beast. And that if 2D Metroid can sell 3 million plus at this point, can blow away all the other 2D Metroid games, Metroid Prime 4 can do that and even better. So I would expect those sales to definitely double up on whatever Metroid Dread ends up doing, because Metroid Prime just has that bigger appeal here in the West. Like I've talked about multiple times, that the West, when it comes to Metroid, is huge. But I do feel that this does mean something. There's just like no way that Retro Studios wouldn't update this if there wasn't going to be something coming down the line this year. Now, I don't know when it's going to happen, right? We don't know when it's going to happen. There could be E3. That might be a great place for it. I think that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is probably going to be a huge emphasis, but Nintendo will have other games. There's also the Nintendo Direct for the fall. There's also that as well. But there's one wild card that I want to just make sure that I implant in here before we talk about anything else or move on, and that is Metroid Prime Remastered. I think that's going to be a way to bring up to date when it comes to the controls, when it comes to the series, and when it comes to all of the new fans that could potentially have been born, after the last major Metroid Prime game. Because you have to think about it. 2007 was a long time ago. You know, literally, there are new adults, new people in this world that just weren't around or weren't functioning enough at the time. And there's no way they would have been able to get into this series that way. And that's what happened with Dread. That's why I knew Dread was going to do better, because there's a lot more new people just around compared to when the last big Metroid game was released on a popular Nintendo system. So of course it was going to do better. And I think that with Metroid Prime Remastered, that could be a very good way to introduce new people to Samus in the first-person Prime series and get the ball rolling when it comes to Metroid Prime 4 and turning the series into something a lot bigger than it's ever been. We saw it with Dread, and we're going to see it here with Prime. But those are my thoughts at this point, guys. I think there's something coming. I'm guessing we're going to get a Metroid Prime Remastered announcement at E3 for launch this year, and then we're going to get a tease of Metroid Prime 4, not for launching this year, but a tease of it, maybe a small trailer, something like that, and then maybe a full blowout later with the fall direct, or maybe they'll even save that till next year in the early next year direct when it's closer to a release date. But man, I can't wait for this. I think it's going to be pretty good, and I'm excited to see what's next, because they've been taking their time on this game. They've got really good developers on this game, and I want a high quality product, so take as much time as possible to get the job done. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here. A number of you guys pointed this out to me when it comes to Nintendo Switch Sports, and this could be foreshadowing what Nintendo's going to be doing more in the future, even with their own native hardware and in with Nvidia. So Nintendo Switch Sports, there is a tech test that's going on this weekend with some weird requirements, but it's there. But the game looked overwhelmingly clean and sharp. Some might say a little bit too much when it comes to the fidelity. Well, there's a reason for that. And according to Oatmeal Dome, one of the best Nintendo Switch data miners out there, he's one of the guys that let me know, or at least he let everyone else know, about the new NPLN Nintendo Switch Online system that really started getting going with Monster Hunter Rise, that will greatly improve the Nintendo Switch Online play going forward with the written netcode, and how it's going to be something that they're going to continually improve over the course of games. A lot of people didn't believe it, but then the game started coming out, like Monster Hunter Rise, that had really good online play. Then, of course, you have Mario Party as well. They did the update to it, and then Super Mario Party was really good as well. And a lot of the games that have came out new on there have been running great. And, of course, Nintendo's been improving the other stuff with the online play, with the Nintendo Switch Online N64 games and all that. Everything's just been improving. So Oatmeal Dome is definitely a trusted source on this one. And he actually quote tweeted another tweet on Twitter talking about the license for the Nintendo Switch Sports that lists Fidelity FX Super Resolution, or FSR. And here is Oatmeal Dome's analysis on this feature. Nintendo Switch Sports, the game is using AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, apparently. This is an upscaling technique developed by AMD aimed at attempting to make low-resolution images appear higher resolution. Think NVIDIA's DLSS, which we've talked about before on this channel, but very different in how they work internally. Oatmeal Dome adds that it seems that FSR is integrated in Nintendo Switch Sports' version of AGL, one of Nintendo's core graphics rendering libraries. This library was used in the past by many first-party games: The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. This could indicate that FSR may be used in future Nintendo titles. Now, if you want the full skinny or lowdown on the FSR, you can check out the link in the description that will talk about it, Digital Foundry's analysis and all of that. Now, here's the thing with this, guys. I've not known about this at all. There were some games that I thought that were overwhelmingly clean looking when it comes down to it. And yeah, if you look at all the different games that he mentioned there, Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, they have that clean, sharper image polish outside of maybe what you would think for other titles out there on the Nintendo Switch. And if Nintendo was able to get this done in this capacity, Imagine what they can do when they actually have it built in with NVIDIA and DLSS and how they get that, because right now they're licensing it from AMD. It could be used for future titles, but I think that with NVIDIA and the DLSS, which is essentially their version of it, I think that they can take this to the next level if it's integrated and built from day one within what they're going to be using for the next generation Nintendo Switch, which Nintendo is definitely actively at this point looking into and seeing exactly where they're going to slot games in and what they're going to have for launch and planning the launch of that system within the next couple of years. You can't wait. You got to make sure that you start that. So I think that gives me definitely hope going forward in the future that they're going to be able to get really good resolutions without putting that type of load on the CPU and GPU when it comes down to it, and also have some great looking games in the process that can even run better based on how DLSS works. So I'm excited for that, and I'm also excited, of course, to have a clean looking Nintendo Switch Sports, because the game does look really sharp and everything. So I'm happy they're able to get whatever tech they can do to make sure the games look as good as possible given the hardware that the Nintendo Switch is. So what are your thoughts on this when it comes to AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution being used in Nintendo Switch Sports and potentially new titles going forward, and even what Nintendo could do with that type of tech and their own with NVIDIA in next-gen Nintendo Switches? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and I did want to move into one thing here, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have no idea what this could be. But Atlus, they launched a brand new site, Soul Hackers. You guys all know Shin Megami Tensei Soul Hackers, really cool games on the DS line for Nintendo. So is there going to be a new game update here? Well, let's talk about this. So Atlus has launched a new countdown teaser website at soulhackers.jp, as well as an accompanying Twitter account. The countdown ends on February 21st at 20 JST, so we still have a number of days left. The website opens with the following loading text. Hello, human, all capitals on the human. We want to collect your information, checking device compatibility. Notice, please do not take your hands off the device. Call Soulhack, sequence start. From there, it loads into a countdown page with the text hack begins 22/2/17, Thursday 20, analysis in progress. The first tweet from the accompanying Twitter account reads, hello, we are Aeon. Please follow this account. Your cooperation is needed. Soulhackers.jp, hashtag Soulhackers. The second tweet follows. Aeon is predicted the end of mankind. To avoid the end, we will begin a sequence today at 20 JST. Please observe and cooperate. Soulhackers.jp, hashtag Soulhackers. Stay tuned. We've got an update. Shout outs to Gematsu, 7:50 a.m. yesterday. Earlier today, which was yesterday, at 20 JST, Atlus aired the first information collection sequence live stream. The official Atlus Japan, Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, and Soul Hackers Twitter accounts all tweeted out its start. The live stream posted 3 questions for users to answer on Twitter with a 10-minute timer for each. As users answered each question, their tweets were streamed in across the bottom of the screen. The questions were, what is a game to you? Please tell us your favorite food. Please tell us your favorite demon. The following images randomly appeared during each 10-minute timer. As you can see, looks like a gun there, looks like some type of location, looks like a slice of pizza, looks like a bottle of beer or some type of beverage, looks like a person sitting down, on a nice couch with their head down, and looks like a warehouse, another warehouse. Then you also have a guy here that's walking. And now after the questions, a satellite image of Tokyo Bay appeared alongside a text that said, a further evolution, a continuous observation, and to that end, we must protect the world. Now the website has now been updated with the text, hack begins 2022/2/18, Friday 10, suggesting a second information collection sequence will air on February 18th at 10 JST. The Atlus Japan YouTube channel has also opened a page for the Aeon Live broadcasting sequence live stream, which will air February 21st at 20 JST. So we all know that means that there's a new PC game coming only and there's no consoles included. No, I'm joking on that one. It seems to me like they're going to be doing a new Soul Hackers game across Nintendo Switch, PC, and PlayStation. That's what I'm guessing. Soul Hackers is a really good series. It's a really good offshoot series of the mainline Shin Megami Tensei series. And if they brought a new Soul Hackers game, up to date here. Probably wouldn't put everything they got into it. I don't think it's going to be Persona level budget or SMT5 level budget, but just a really cool Soul Hackers game for modern systems. Sign me up day zero, Atlas. Let me know. We got to work together again on this one because I would be extremely excited for that. But it's about time. I mean, Atlas hasn't done much when it comes to the Shin Megami Tensei series on modern end consoles. We just got SMT5. We really haven't had much. So I am down for Soul Hackers. I am down for more of those games to come over. More SMT games should be coming over. We need more ports of other games. Heck, we've cried about it and complained about it so much on this channel, but it is time. You have the install base. You have the built-in fan base. Everything's good. The PS5 and Xbox Series are out. That's fine. It doesn't matter. You don't need to make a bunch of games for those or worry about the development budget. You can make games on PlayStation 4, which also backwards compatible, or on Xbox One, or on PC, or on Switch, and they will sell, especially on the Nintendo Switch. A new Soul Hackers would do extremely well, just like SMT5 blew away all the other SMT games in like a month. It didn't take that long. So yeah, I am down for something like this, but we'll see what it actually is. Is it a new game? Is it a remaster? Is it a port? Is it this or it's that? It's something. I think it's going to be a new game, but we'll see what happens here. The worst would be if it's like a concert, you know, but I doubt it's going to be that. But what do you guys think about this? What do you think about everything that we discussed here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the last topic here. I discussed this just briefly when it comes to my last video about the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS games. It wasn't briefly, I think I had 2 separate segments in there on it, so it wasn't briefly, but I discussed it quite a bit. I've discussed it before on the channel, and I'll say it again here. I think at this point, with the Nintendo Wii U and 3DS eShops closing, but specifically with the Wii U eShop closing, there is one game that I think that everybody and their mom, maybe their dad, brothers and sisters, everybody wants to see on the Nintendo Switch, and that is Nintendo Switch Sport. No, I'm joking. And that is Xenoblade Chronicles X. We have to make sure that Xenoblade Chronicles X gets on the system. And I think that with those eShops going down, this is a very big indication that I feel not only is Nintendo planning on doing, I would say, Nintendo 3DS games emulation in the future and selling those on Nintendo Switch Online on a separate or new tier or on a separate plan or just something like that going forward in the future, probably in the next gen Switch. But I think that when it comes to Wii U games, I think that Nintendo is planning to port over Xenoblade Chronicles X or even offer Wii U game downloads that didn't come over on the next Switch or something like that. But that's like a video for like another day. I think that what I want to focus on is Xenoblade Chronicles X and how I think that's going to come over based off of this news, because Nintendo has been putting a big push towards Xenoblade. Obviously, we saw with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, that was fantastic. That sold millions. It was great. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sold millions on the Nintendo Switch. That was great. But then Xenoblade Chronicles 3 had such a reception from fans out there and is getting so much positive buzz at this point, and there's so much hype behind it. Of course, not as much as a Legend of Zelda or a Mario, but the fact that fans are getting so hyped up and people are asking me left and right and up and down, I want to get into Xenoblade. I picked up Xenoblade. Heck, I had hundreds of people tell me that they picked up Xenoblade immediately after that presentation because of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and how great that game looked, and they wanted to go back and play the games. This is a growing franchise, and you cannot leave off one of the most unique ones when it comes down to it, and you can make a lot of money in the process. Now, here's what I think when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles X, and you guys have asked me this a lot of times, why don't they just do it? Come on, just go ahead and get it done. Well, it's not that simple, okay? They've been hard at work on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Like, that game has been taking up all their time and all their effort. I felt that there might be a possibility that we get Xenoblade Chronicles X before Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was officially announced, because I didn't expect Xeno 3 to be September. I thought it would be like December or early next year. I thought they would talk about it this year. There was a slim chance that it might come out this year, but it's probably next year. But I'm not too surprised that it's coming out this year. Not really. I felt that it could, you know, but I felt that they were maybe going to get out Xenoblade Chronicles X beforehand. But after looking at what Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is, and the type of work that they put into that, and seeing how Xenoblade X looks, and obviously what they said a number of years ago, obviously Takahashi would want hands-on on this port over. They're not just going to hand it off to somebody or give it to a smaller team or do something like that. If they brought over Xeno X, it needs to be brought over in a very effective way. It needs to be brought over in a way that's not going to disrespect what the game was originally. It can't be lagging and having issues, because that's not a simple port. If you look at what that game and how it was constructed and how it was made, there's no way that's a simple port. Takahashi-san even said it himself. It would take a lot of money, and it would take definitely effort to get that done. And how much would it sell? Well, that's where Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes in. If you do Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and obviously the main games that you need to play before you play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Of course, Future Connected, cool. Torna, cool. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3, really, those are the key games. X is probably going to play a factor in some small Easter egg and other types of ways, but it's not going to be the complete thing. So I think that it might be a better sales aspiration for X. And of course, you'd have a lot more cash flowing in if you launch Xenoblade Chronicles 3 first. Boost up the profile even higher, because we all know good and well that Xeno 3 is going to blow away Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 in sales. It just is. The Switch is at 100 million units sold. Xenoblade's at its most popular ever. People want these huge RPGs. It got that last spot. Xenoblade 3 is going to sell extremely well for the franchise. It's going to blow away Xenoblade 2. Just like Metroid Dread blew away every other Metroid game, it's going to blow away every other Xenoblade game pretty quickly now that you have this huge, stout install base of 100 million. So I feel that after you have that, a little bit of time settles and everything, the Nintendo Switch is kind of riding off into that somewhat sunset and getting ready for the next gen. I think that's when the following year you drop that Xenoblade Chronicles X, and everyone is happy because they played Xenoblade Chronicles 3, they went back and played the previous games, and now you get this separate game that's completely separate. And then what else do you do because of the extra time that you do have? You drop the Future Connected, or the Future Behind when it comes to it, or like the Xenoblade Chronicles, I would say Mira, the Golden Country. I don't know, I'm obviously making jokes with the other expansion slash things that Nintendo has for Xenoblade, but then you drop it and it resolves the issue that a lot of people had with Xenoblade Chronicles X and the kind of the cliffhanger that it left you on. I think that's the best way to get it done. You keep the online play, by the way, there's online play. You keep that on tact, or if you can't, you strip it out completely and you just make it local. But of course, everyone would want that online play. So you need time to make sure that you develop for that and everything. So you keep the online play in there intact. You add that extra chapter in at the end, that extra expansion in at the end that wraps everything up. You port it over wholesale, make sure everything is good, and you ride off of the high and the momentum that you got with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, getting way more fans into the series, and now saying, hey, try out this different game that we made back in 2015 that's very different from this one. You know, obviously you might not like it as much, or you might not feel that it's as good as this game, but it plays with mechs and all this other cool stuff. So I think that's the move. I think that is the plan that they are doing at this point, and I'm going with that. So of course, if anybody asks me questions on Xenoblade Chronicles X and if it's going to come over, this will be the video that I reference you over to. So what are your thoughts on everything that we discussed here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.